Hi, I'm Roger Peterson. Welcome back to Pro 423. Well, let's wrap up this fourth step of baby stepping forward by looking at 1 Corinthians 13. 1 Corinthians 13, that famous love chapter from the New Testament. It's read at many, many weddings, and maybe you've heard these lines before. Love is patient, love is kind, love doesn't demand its own way, love does not keep a record of wrongs. Those are some of the ones listed there. Well, later on in the chapter, Paul says to us, I used to think like a child, but now I've put away childish things. What are those childish things? I think it's the opposite of what we read from earlier in the chapter. I think childish love, not childlike, childish love demands its own way, does keep a record of wrongs, and it's harsh, it's not gentle, and it's not patient and kind. It's the opposite, it's impatient, unkind. And you know, when we don't process those injuries in our childhood, oftentimes our emotional health just stalls right there. Oftentimes we stay right there or have a hard time moving past that, and we find ourselves as an adult acting like a sixth grader, demanding our own way. Or an adolescent, keeping a record of wrongs to use later in arguments. Those are the childish things we're supposed to move past and beyond. So, let's imagine we're going from keeping a record of wrongs to actually forgiving and not keeping a record of wrongs. And we figured out a baby step with our trusted friends. We're dealing with our injuries, and we have courage now to try to take that courageous baby step toward not keeping a record of wrongs. What's it feel like? You've tried 19 times and you're really discouraged, but your friends are encouraging you. Try for that 20th time, and you actually take that baby step, whatever you guys have decided that it would be. What's it feel like? Well, I kind of equate it to rock climbing. You know, one of those walls that you climb up, and I have a rope. Come on, I'm not very good or strong at it. But you finally get to this point because it gets harder and harder as you go up, right? I get to this point where I am exhausted. My muscles are starting to shake, and there's a move I see I should make, but I'm not sure I can do it. But because there's a rope on me and because there's people looking at me and I don't want to chicken out, I go for it and I miss. There's that moment where you miss the place where you're going to put your hand or your foot, and you begin to fall and you feel like you're going to die, even though you don't, even though it doesn't last very long, but you feel like, for me, that's what it felt like every time I did something brand new, a baby step forward for the first time and was successful. It was scary. Because I'm so used to falling back into my regular pattern, which is safe. I remember one time Sue and I were fighting, and one of my techniques was to, and maybe it's yours, at the very end of the argument when I sort of was losing my grip on my point, I would just give her a verbal jab and turn around and walk away. Well, in my meetings with my guys, we decided that was just wrong, and my next baby step was to apologize next time it happened, to turn around and apologize next time it happened. So a couple of days later it happened, and I gave her the verbal jab. I turned around and walked away, and I got about 6 feet out the bedroom door, and I heard God say, "You coward. Stop right where you are. Get in there and say you're sorry, and mean it when you say you're sorry." I stood there for a minute and a half because I was scared, and I almost couldn't breathe. God was telling me what to do. He was reminding me what I discussed with my friends, my next baby step. About a minute and a half I stood there, and finally I turned around, walked in, and said I was sorry. And I meant it. And then we continued on with the argument. But I said I was sorry. It's scary. But then after it was over, it became, like I said earlier in the series, strangely refreshing. And all of a sudden I realized it's a different day. And all of a sudden, anything's possible. How far can I take this? How healthy can I be? How gentle and loving can I be? How passionate and strong can I love my wife? How big can I make her smile? How much can I serve her and fulfill her heart? Anything is possible. God stuff starts happening. There's no limits. Let's get started.